with Daniel Cohen of Pharmadrug, and looking forward to a great journey of conversation with you today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Daniel, let's start off by talking about yourself, your background. I know you have many years experience in the industry. Do you want to give us a little bit of a snapshot of who you are?
Of who I am. So I have actually came from the investment banking side. I worked in capital markets for about 20 years in Toronto, focused most of the time on small caps. Definitely my last, standing as an investment banker, I focused on the cannabis industry. And so did a lot of work there. So when it was time for me to move on and maybe look to become a CEO of a company or a small company or a startup, medical cannabis made the most sense.
Wonderful. Certainly a growing and expanding industry. I know there are a lot of people interested in the sector, and I know we'll explore some of the details of what you do exactly with Pharmadrug, but why don't we turn our focus to the company itself and tell me a bit about the vision and the mandate of the company.
So Pharmadrug is a pharmaceutical company that focuses on natural medicines. And in natural medicines, we specifically deal with THC, CBD, psilocybin, cepharenthine, and DMT. So lots of different drugs. We do that through three distinct divisions. The first one is a Schedule I narcotics distributor in Germany. And with that, we right now are distributing medical cannabis, and we're looking to expand that. We have SuperSmart in the Netherlands. There we're looking to create a retail adult use psychedelic business, and are looking to create a brand there. And we recently acquired Cyril Therapeutics, which is obviously developing cepharenthine as a candidate for anti-cancer. And we're looking to start a clinical trial there soon with the FDA. And lastly, with Cyril in-house, we developed our own strategy for DMT, which is a psychedelic drug.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I know a lot of people are finding a way to this sector. THC, CBD, psychedelics are becoming quite the interest around the world. So tell me, if I'm new to investing and I'm exploring this sector kind of for the first time, can you share with me your interest in why this is a wonderful sector to invest
In terms of psychedelics.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's really early in psychedelics, but so far the work has been pretty interesting. For political reasons and whatnot, research into psychedelics was more or less closed, in the 60s and 70s, and there was a big void for about 30 years, but it started again in the late 90s and in earnest over the past few years. We know that psychedelics can be very powerful drugs in terms of not adult and recreational use, but in terms of being able to help many different types of ailments, whether it's depression or potentially PTSD, things of that sort. But the drug that we're focusing on, DMT specifically, is a drug that's naturally produced in the mind. So we know that nature already had an intent for it and a purpose for it. And so there's been academic research being done, but now companies are really putting money behind it, so that we can actually take these different drugs to clinical trial to figure out how we can use them to treat different ailments. So I think it's exciting because it's been dormant. There's been a lack of investment in the research for 30, 40 years, and that's changing now. So we're going to see a lot coming out over the next few years.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And in terms of where you are as a company right now in your journey, how have things expanded and evolved? Where are you right now in your journey versus when things first started up? What's the most exciting thing happening for you?
In terms of psychedelics?
Mm-hmm.
So psychedelics, our first entry into psychedelics was when we acquired SuperSmart, officially known as Interabang, but we do business as SuperSmart. So what we're doing there is, in the Netherlands, psilocybin truffles are legal, and psilocybin truffles are more or less the same thing. It's a technical difference between a truffle and a mushroom, but the truffles are legal for adult use in the Netherlands. So what we want to do is create basically a retail business focused on the adult use of psychedelics. Now, up to now, most of the approach has been focused on adult use for recreational purposes, which we are fine with. But what we see is an opportunity to create an elevated approach to the sale of psilocybin truffles in the Netherlands, and to use it for different potential ailments, self-healing, maybe even some cognitive performance. We can liken it to cannabis, where you can use cannabis for very serious conditions, but some people use cannabis to help them go to sleep, and you don't necessarily need a prescription to do that. However, it'd be nice to be able to walk into a store that has people working there that are educated on how to use it to help you sleep. And so that's the approach that we want to do for psychedelics in the Netherlands. And so we bought our first store. We've developed a brand, and we are about to launch an online shop that was going to focus on selling, obviously, psychedelic truffles, as well as some functional mushrooms, but also educational content on how to use them.
Wonderful. And you mentioned cannabis in Germany. I'm curious about your strategy with the company with cannabis in Germany specifically.
So Germany is a medical cannabis jurisdiction. So you need prescriptions, and when you have a prescription, you buy it at the pharmacy. So that's the way it's structured in Germany, and that's the environment that we work in. And so right now we are distributing Bedrocan, which is a cannabis. It was the first medical cannabis available in Germany and still one of the dominant suppliers in Germany. So we are distributing that to about 300 pharmacies. We recently signed a supply agreement with a global Canadian-based LP, whose name I can't mention at the current time, but we have already received shipment of their product and have started working on selling the product. But where we really see Pharmadrug's potential in Germany is to start selling cannabis under our own brand. And we're in the midst of working with several different companies to be able to introduce both flower and oils in Germany this year.
Daniel, tell me about the Cyril Therapeutics, the acquisition of that company, and what that does for you overall.
Well, Cyril was a very strategic acquisition for us. As I said before, we are a pharmaceutical company that is focused on several different natural medicines, and we also want to focus on very specific rare diseases. With our our narcotics distribution arm in Germany, we have the ability to brand and sell our own product. With the Netherlands, we had the ability to obviously open a chain and develop a chain of adult use psychedelic shops. We were missing a core competency in biotech research, which we wanted to do in natural medicines. And so instead of spending a year hiring people here and there, we bought Cyril Therapeutics. What Cyril brought us was they have a unique patent on cephalosporin. So just to step back a second, cephalosporin is a natural medicine that's been in use in Japan for about 60 years.
Okay.
It's derived from a plant. It's been used in Japan for everything from malaria to hair loss to snake bites. It didn't have a broader application for more serious diseases because the bioavailability of it is low. Our patent that we have exclusive rights on is for a reformulated version of cephalosporin that was formulated in the United States that has a bioavailability that is 10 times higher than the format that it's in Japan. Okay. That we know that we can go after cancers. We can actually go after many other different indications, but we really specifically want to focus on rare cancers. We've already gotten orphan drug status from the FDA for esophageal cancer. And we're looking at a couple of other indications as well, such as ovarian cancer, potentially for cephalosporin. So we're very excited about being able to start not just research, but having the core competency to take a drug through FDA clinical trials. Right. Now, with that core competency in-house, part of the reason why we acquired Cyril was that we wanted to start our own psychedelic clinical research. And so with with the core competency that came with the personnel from Cyril, we, even before closed the acquisition, decided that we wanted to go after DMT, and we have started that. We have filed for orphan drug status with DMT on 2 specific indications with the FDA. It'll take several months before we hear an answer from there. Okay. And we're not necessarily going to go after those indications, but we wanted to stake claim to what we thought made sense. We've also brought on a very senior academic in DMT research, Stephen Barker, He's been, he has a long career of doing research on DMT. He's
Wow.
heading our advisory committee for DMT.
Mhm.
And we've just recently announced that we're going to be funding a research program at the University of Michigan, and that's with Dr. Gimo. And she's done groundbreaking research on DMT. One of them was that she figured out that DMT is produced in the pineal gland in the brain and has very specific functions in the brain. So we're going to be looking to continue to help her develop her studies and have access to the IP. But we're also going to be looking to develop a clinical study as well. So there's lots happening at Pharmadrug on the biotech side, whether it's cepherinthine or whether it was DMT specifically.
Yes.
And you're going to see a lot coming out of us because, from that in the next 6 months.
Fantastic. And what I also hear, Daniel, is you're touching on a lot of areas that have really impacted people in just humans in general. People have family members, friends, themselves that have gone through cancer, different diseases. So that's exciting as an investor to think you might be able to put energy into something that's going to make the world a better place.
That's what we hope.
Fantastic.